Hey there, gang.
What you're about to hear are opinions, suppositions, like alcohol, scientific proofs, not falsities. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preference to view reality power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, and values reflected unless very confirmed. We do not apologize for but we do not apologize for daring to express our views and discussions, but we believe this is what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Freako attempts to talk about the news without freaking out. That's the plan, ladies and gentlemen. I plan on doing that very thing. We are 17 shows since I last freaked out. And now, I want to say, when I last freaked out 17 shows ago, or is it 18 shows? I don't know. Those math things, no, whatever. Whether it's 17 or 18, however it works out. Those so odd many shows. My freak out was only one segment. The freak out before that, which was 21, I had 21 shows in a row without a freak out, so I guess 21 shows between, so that's however that math works out. That one, the entire show was one giant freak out. If you could find that show, I think that you will, I'm going to put this in quotes, enjoy it. But we're back on Civil Earth. We're back in, and I've been thinking about to myself about the at some point I may decide to leave, well, kind of how I do the show right now is not exactly how I'll end up doing the show in the future, and that is, well, to a certain degree, I show a lot more and I reveal a lot more as far as my internals and the thoughts that, certain types of thoughts. And it's not a question of whether I think thoughts are dangerous or less dangerous. I don't mean anything like that. Like, I don't really care. I'll continue to express dangerous thoughts. That is one of the underlying themes of this show. I just mean in terms of taking, like, even this time right here that I'm doing these types of things where I'm giving you more of I'm talking about my process and how I'm doing things, and I'm still going to do that, but I just will do it significantly less than I do now. And I was just thinking to myself, I wonder if I'm getting close to that point. And I might be. And then another note that I'll speak on before we get to the to the show of shows, and that is the time of the show. Over the next couple of weeks, I may be flirting with some different times, but what I can promise my audience is this: by the end of what will be the 10th week, I will center into my space where this is the time that I'm going to try. Right now, I may try some different times just as an experiment. Ultimately, I would love to find a time that was well suited to me. And in truth, the optimal time in terms of when to do this is probably 9 a.m. Now, I was going to do the show at 8 a.m. and I tried it at 8 a.m. yesterday, and I have to say the numbers definitely... Now, I can't find a direct correlation. It's just one show, so... But still, I'm kind of flirting around with stuff, but I wanted to see if I had it at 8 a.m. and I had experienced some significant spike, then I would be like, well, even if it's more inconvenient for me, if it works at 8 a.m., that's when I'll do it. That's ultimately what I want to find. So I'm playing around with the times, and I may even try possibly doing the show tomorrow at 6 a.m. just as an experiment, and I may even try a 5 a.m. show. And I think I may try a 10 a.m. show as well, somewhere between now and the end of next week. And then center in on this is the definitive time. So that's where we're at with the show as far as our time is, and we're settling in. We're making other stuff. I don't know if you noticed Freako.com, but that site's constantly being updated, and we've changed some things around, and you're going to see it in the show today. And with that, let's get to the first segment of the show. And that's going to be well, actually, before we get to... What am I talking about? Before we get to the first segment of the show, why don't we introduce the show? That's a good idea. The show is Freako Talks the News for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. And what I do is I look at all vast array of news links from across the webosphere and various methodologies to harvest such things. And I assemble all of them into what I call a news art. Well, it's the content that will be which the news art is created from. And today's news art is titled Evicting Security in the Name of Broken Memories. And on this episode, the unintended good of rioting, burning, and broken general lease. After pandemic, EvictionPocolypse looms. Somaliland seeks international recognition of self-rule. Emerging villains and angels and your safety during this season's riots. And then finally, our news poem is Virtuous Concerns the Latticed Cocoon, a SciFactual. Yes, I'm calling it a SciFactual. I don't think I invented that term, though. And as usual, let me remind you to get the Freako Talks Daily delivered to your email at freako.com/daily. Now let's get to our first segment of the show. This is the talk headlines for Freako Talks the News on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. My name is Freako with Freako.com, and our top headline is... Well, let's get to let's do this again, except this time we're going to record it. You know, that's one thing. If you're watching the show, by the way, I'll remind you the premise of the show. Well, one of the aspects of the show is the live stream, and during the live stream, that is when I record what will be my segments. Like that, I'll actually do every once in a while. It happens where I will start to do a segment, and I'll screw up so badly. I'll say, know what? No, that's not going to be a recorded segment. Now I do leave those screw ups up, by the way, on the archived live stream. So I'm not ashamed of my screw ups, but I don't want to have them in the segments. So in this instance, I didn't even start recording. So now that little part that you just heard, I'm sorry. If this is the first time you're listening, you're going to hear that brief part all over again. I just want to apologize in advance for the trauma that I put on your life due to my own screw ups. I will survive, and so will you. We shall get through this. This is the talk headlines for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020 for Freako Talks the News, and I am Freako with Freako.com, and our top headline is After pandemic, EvictionPocolypse looms. And this is an excerpt from TampaBay.com. I wish I had that domain name. That's a really, I don't know how did they get that domain name early on, or did they have to buy it? I wonder how much money they paid for TampaBay.com if somebody else had it. Oh, that's a whole rabbit hole to go down. That'd be a fun one to figure out that's probably going to become some YouTube series show, or YouTube series for someone in the near future, an investigation of the history of some of the strangest and rarest and most marketable domain names. Hey, YouTubers, if you're out there, I just gave you some ideas. I don't even have the bandwidth to even think about doing something like that, but I think it's a cool idea for someone that has the bandwidth that does that stuff already. With that in mind, let's get to the actual excerpt. Florida landlords lining up evictions for when Coronaville moratorium expires. Lawyers, including St. Petersburg attorney Matt Widener, have questioned whether it was legal for landlords to file eviction cases while DeSantis' executive order is in effect. In some cases, clerks have issued summonses to tenants. In other instances, landlords have filed motions for judgment against renters who didn't respond quickly enough. Those motions have not been granted in cases that fall under DeSantis' order. There's no question that violates the spirit and express terms of the governor's order, said Widener, who's representing renters facing eviction. The order is not intended to allow them to move the ball all the way to the end zone, and the moment it expires, they cross for a touchdown. Still, while fighting an eviction at a recent hearing, Widener said it was, I don't know if it's Widener or Widener, no idea, said it was difficult to find previous cases to cite, perhaps emblematic of the unprecedented legal terrain created by the pandemic. You know, just let me try to really bring this into focus here, ladies and gentlemen, in a way that all of us can actually understand. All of these people are chasing after a legitimization of action, and no one is really looking pragmatically at the, let's just say, the reality of power that is reflected in a system that produces these types of folks who have decided that in their roles as landlords that they would go ahead and gear up for EvictionPocolypse. They're gearing up for EvictionPocolypse, and this is a bad thing. This is a very bad thing indeed. This says something about a system, that you have these individuals that have this significant power advantage, I'll say. Yeah, just power advantage. And they've decided that with that power advantage, they're going to not extend grace and mercy to folks that I'm assuming some of these folks may very well be clients that have been with them for years and years and years and years. Maybe many of these people reliable renters, and yet they're going to, at the first time of trouble, at the first time when you know, this is for all you quote unquote capitalists and free marketers out there. Where is your God? Where is your God? Because this is the market. This is the unregulated market. I mean, it's not unregulated. There's plenty of regulations with renting. But I mean, as far as this type of capacity, whatever, well, it's not really unregulated. But you know what? Shut up. It's not an unregulated market at all. So, but it is still, it is still, you're not against regulations. I don't know many capitalists that are against regulations. So within this regulated market, they have the capacity to realistically do this to huge numbers of human beings. And they're not feeling any compulsion to eat it. Just eat it. Just eat it. Just eat it. You know, one of the coolest things about Hebrew tradition, I'll just say Judaic tradition, and I don't know that the Christians really picked up really fundamentally This thing didn't really carry over, as far as I could see, throughout Christian history. And I've studied Christian history I'm not a scholar, but I have gone through more than cursorially, at the very least, looking at the historical context of people living out this thing called Christianity, or these things called Christianity, because there's various forms. Now I come to look at these things as vehicles of power, and almost all of them I judge by my standards as being, I'm going to just say, rooted in the earth, not in Christ. And so, for me, when I look at a story like this, I look at and I analyze the overall system that produces individuals with this advantage, who have chosen at such a large scale. I don't even know if this is this may very well not be reflective of the vast majority of folks that rent to people. Maybe the vast majority of folks that rent to people really are showing the mercy. And the concept in the Hebrew tradition is called Jubilee. There is a recognition within this Hebrew tradition of the powerful, oppressive tool called debt. And the idea is that you don't let debt build up into a system. They even had laws regarding land property, and how, because of the way these things are structured, it was awfully difficult for any one individual to own outright all the land. They can go through periods of time where they get what essentially they buy ownership for the land for a period of time. They lease it in essence, but only for a period of time, because at Jubilee, everything reverts back to the original owners of the land. And debt is forgiven at the end of Jubilee. You can't build debt up, and you certainly can't build legacy debt up. So debt is is one of the ways, one of the paths in which those that have can continue to oppress and control and limit those that have not. Because debt, especially usury debt, compound interest usury debt, can quickly turn your slight problem into a crippling, costly problem that significantly reduces your capacity not only to live the life more closer to your choosing, but also what you're able to provide for others, and if you're a parent, what you're able to provide for your children. So this has significantly affected human life throughout history. And this Hebrew tradition of Jubilee, I really like it. I don't know how it looks like in this world, but it would certainly take away a lot of the power of these folks, and these folks right here. How do we have a system? And how do you feel? And when I say good, I'm not making a moral judgment on these folks. What I'm telling you is these folks are very non-consensual in nature. That legally they're in the right, but they view human beings in such a way, and I'm willing to bet that the ones who are the most likely to do these types of things are the corporate rental companies. I'm willing to bet. Now, I don't know, but I'm willing to bet that that's what you're going to find out. That it's going to be the folks that are the least connected. And just another reason why you should not have so many large-scale concentrations of providing of service in any way, unless you absolutely have to. But in this case, we're now looking at a situation in which your system has provided for you folks that have this certain advantage in society, and they have chosen to use that advantage to basically take the face of their neighbor The person that for a long time, in many instances I'm sure, for a long time has provided for them by paying their rent, and they make their little profits. But they're taking that person, their loyal customer, and when they need them the most at such a horrible time in human history, they're preparing to destroy their lives. They're taking their face and they're grinding it into the dirt. And that's what capitalism has produced. Now, I am no advocate of communism or socialism. Whatever you say capitalism is, it's just like what you say to the communists, and rightly so. Whatever you say communism is, wherever it's lived out, however it's lived out, that's much more of an evidence of what it really is in practice than anything anyone can write on paper. And so, by that standard, unless the capitalists want to stop judging communists by the same standard, by that standard, capitalism has been found wanting. It has produced this class of individuals. I understand you're always going to have a certain amount of folks that are going to do this. But this is apparently a problem that isn't isolated. And it's going to cripple the legal system. And it's all because so many people... Now, don't get me wrong. I am not defending DeSantis' executive order in any way, shape, or form. I don't think his executive order should hold any weight. I don't think there should have been an executive order needed. And the fact that there was an executive order needed, to me, is another conviction on your capitalism, that you needed that you needed guns to bear before you decide to actually not evict people in the middle of a fucking... Excuse me. No, this does not... I'm allowed... Like I said, the rules are as far as freakouts are. If I drop an... I'm going to say an unintended F-bomb. If I drop one, I'm fine. Even if I drop one later in the story, it's still fine. But if I drop two within a minute, then it's like, okay, that's an official freakout at that point. And even if it's a minor one, it still means that that thing goes away. So I skirted a line there. I'm gonna back up there. But... we're coming to the end of this one, but this thing, it definitely, this is one of these stories that truly ticks me off. This is why I'm not a conservative. Because conservatives can't see. The conservatives will absolutely, completely defend the property owner just because of property. Property is their god. Property is just as much their god as justice is the left's god. Well, the broadly speaking left's god, the generic left's god. And building anything around simplistic concepts in general is always insanely stupid. Human beings are incredibly nuanced, incredibly multifaceted. And all of these groups reduce human beings to incredibly simplistic terms and elements that they then try to build massive systems of social engineering around, based on crude assumptions about the nature of humanity. This is what we end up with. And then we end up with systems that produce this. This is the thing. It doesn't really matter. I don't care what you say about capitalism, communism, conservative, left, right, whatever. The bottom line is we live in a system, all of us live in this system that produces that. A system that required a law, an unconstitutional order. That's what I'm calling it. Within this nation-state parameter and our ostensible claims to this Constitution, specifically the Bill of Rights. An unconstitutional order. That's what it needed for these landlords to not throw people out during coronavirus. And they're just biding their time. Even the mortgage companies, what they're talking about building the time that they didn't pay. Are they going to also include the interest? Why don't they just say, listen, we're just going to call that a period of grace. Nobody owes anyone anything during this period of time. Why not? They didn't do that, though. They couldn't even do that much. And mark my word, they're going to figure out a way, I am sure, to get back that money that they sent all of us. They're so magnanimous. Trust me. Whatever money you got, I'm sure some way they're gonna at least try to get the money back from us. We'll see how well that goes. We'll see how much more we human beings are going to take before we just Just walk away. Hey, the biggest walk away movement would be everybody just set up your 3D printers, your mesh networks, and encrypted methods to be able to securely exchange value, whatever you want to call that. And bada boom, bada bing, we could just do stuff. And I'm telling you the truth, that many people who believe that they absolutely can never get along with one another, they hate each other. Even the Antifa, even many people that are Antifa right now will one day be able to get along with many people who are alt-right right now, because both of you will someday realize soon that you're not Antifa and you're not alt-right, and that you guys have been sold bad bills of goods. You've been cordoned off into these vehicles of power that ultimately serve citadelians. They don't serve yourselves, and you'll come to realize the lies. Well, first off, anything involving racism or bigotries in which you people are assuming superiority over others based on anything that has to do with biological constructs is insane. So anyone that's pitching any kind of limitation or special reward for any group in a biological construct, don't trust them. Don't trust them anymore. Just walk away. We walk away from all of those people, and as much as we can, we walk away from all the systems they control. And it's not just the nutty SJWs that we need to separate from. And I'll say nutty because people, but really it's the SJW authoritarians. There's plenty of folks on the right we need to walk away from too. And I don't mean violently. And I don't mean by trying to shame anyone or destroy anybody's lives. I simply mean, you know what? I'm not going to rely on you anymore. You're not in the Bill of Rights consensuality club. If you have any kind of assumptions of biological inferiority and or superiority, you're not in the Bill of Rights club. You just can't be. You can't be. Because don't get me wrong, the Bill of Rights Club says that you should be able to exist and you should be able to express. But anytime your expression calls for guns to back up your expression, then no. That's where we stop tolerating you. When you keep calling on guns to back up your constructs. That's the problem that we Bill of Rights folks have, especially when those constructs are fundamentally opposed to the Bill of Rights. And I think I'll leave it there. I think I barely got through this story, but I did. I can't remember right off the top of my head right now what's coming up. Before we go, I did this new thing, and this is what we'll get at the end of this. I forgot about this. So at the end of the first couple of things I have here, instead of going to the sites, here I'll just work it right in here. You got your newsalite.com top links, and I'm just going to read a couple of these, not all of these. We got what Facebook doesn't understand about the Facebook walkout. Trudeau says Russia won't be included in the G7. NRDC, EPA slashes state and tribal clean water rights. Police chief says cops who don't have an issue with Floyd's killing should turn in their badges. And finally, USC pulls football booster season tickets for blatantly racist tweets promoting violence towards protesters. And there's just some of the links that you'll find there at newsalite.com. And get Freako's Daily Freaks. Just go to freako.com, find this little thing, and then that you're looking at here on the screen, enter in your email, and press subscribe. Coming up next is our Dialectical, and our Dialectical, fear not the AI that took your job. A weirder, cooler one is coming. You know what? I don't think this one's going to make me angry. This is a fun story. I look forward to this one. You should too. Okay, yeah, I didn't do any scene shifting here. Okay. Alrighty, I didn't do any scene shifting there, so that is bad. That is, well, it's not bad. The way that I kind of view it right now, if the majority of the time, if you're new to the show, I have multiple scenes that I really want to shift as I do the story, and sometimes I get locked into a story and I forget all about the scene shifting. One of these days I will have a producer that will produce my show. And by the way, I'm going to be producing a show soon for my brother. Now, my brother is a conservative. He's definitely a conservative that I can get along with. I don't agree with him on a lot of issues, but it's his thing. It's called The Freedomist, and it's conservative. And I'm going to have a segment that I'm going to do, but for the audience, it's basically kind of a pro-Trump show. and I'm going to produce the show. So I want you guys to watch it, even if you're not pro-Trump. I hope that you give it a listen, and be nice if you don't. I mean, be nice if you don't like Trump. We can all get along. We really can. We can get along with pro-Trump people. I think in the end, Antifa, so many of you human beings, individuals, that you're going to find a way, and so many other people that hate you right now are going to find a way and to start to see one another as human beings. Start to figure some stuff out. Start to figure out who's really doing what to continue to whip who up into what frenzies. I was listening to, who was it speaking? Tim Pool. And Tim Pool was talking about, and I'm not going to have this. This is this is going to take a little bit, and this is generally, I don't want to really do these segments too much without recording them for things, but I'm going to do a little bit here. If this might take up to 15 minutes. Let's hope not, but it might. I was listening to Tim Pool, and he was talking about his theory that basically the vast majority of Antifa are white supremacists. And well, first off, the vast majority of Antifa, one thing should be clear, are overwhelmingly white. They are overwhelmingly white, and they're overwhelmingly male, they're overwhelmingly white, and well, I can't really speak to this last one, so I won't say that. Never mind. I have some only very tangential evidence to suggest my strong suspicion this is an overwhelmingly upper middle class white movement, is how I see it. That's what I think Antifa mostly is. And Tim Pool was throwing out this wild theory that maybe they're white supremacists, and he was saying, who else but white, and it makes sense. Who else but white supremacists would want to basically set black people up to destroy their own crap and bring horror and hate upon them by the overwhelming majority of America, including black people in the suburbs. Like, black people in the suburbs ain't gonna like this any more than white people in the suburbs, trust me. It ain't even. So you could say that, man, they were set up, and really, I would say we have ample evidence to suggest that overwhelmingly black people are not stupid. I mean, not that. Yeah, that didn't come out right. Black people they're out there protesting, and allegedly, well, some are writing, some are allegedly writing, so there's a mix of all that stuff. But I mean, these black people that you see that are in this particular situation, they're not stupid. They show that they're not stupid at all. They're really sophisticated. You see ample evidence of, black teens. It's like we live in the age of the interwebs of LARPatopia and memologies and I mean, people, as far as when it comes to any type of memetics in general, and anything that is meta, these guys and gals and theys across the board, like all of us, are young and old alike across the racial dimensions. It's hard to find, especially if you have a huge group of folks, especially if that huge group of folks may very well largely have come out because of the internet, meaning then that they are regulars on the internet. These folks saw stuff right away and said, oh, no, white man. No, we ain't doing your dirty work. We know what you're doing. They knew. They ain't dumb. People know these tactics already. And even these communities, these are folks. They're I don't know what the breakdown of these folks are, as far as who has gathered, what their economic and educational backgrounds are, but I'll say that I have no idea, so I wouldn't speak to it on it at all. But I will say that if you assume the cliche, even if you assume the cliche to be true, that these folks have largely very little educational backgrounds, a lot of people dropping out of high school, whatever. Even if you assume that, what I can tell you is this: even an audience that actually fit that bill, because of the interwebs and other, well, basically because of the interwebs and the LARPology of the interwebs, I'll say, they're more than sophisticated enough. They didn't need to go to college. They didn't need to graduate high school. And actually, college and high school wouldn't teach them anything of value at this point, other than if you're learning something of a technical nature, you want to become a scientist or a doctor, something that really requires long years of incredible discipline to master these complex, especially doctor scientists, whatever. There's exceptions, but by and large, most of college and high schools at this point, they're mostly useless. They're impediments to you discovering who you are and what you really want to be, and really you being able to maximize yourself, to give yourself those best opportunities. So my theory is long been, for maybe 6 years now, and this is my message to Tim Pool, this is the ideology itself is in its current orthodox form, the type that gets the most amount of guns and markets, which also have guns behind them too, guns and markets to act on their behalf. That particular brand that we're talking about, that it's inherently white supremacist in its fundamental ways that it describes the universe. People of color. Their world is people of color and white. Just do the math. You're talking about creating a construct which you could look at it initially and think, well, this is a mess. I mean, I don't even know why Black America, why you haven't figured this out. Maybe, and I think actually many of you have. I bet you most of you actually have, but you don't get voice. Because even though you figured it out, you're still not going along with Republicans, and I don't blame you. Republicans aren't your friends. The Democrats definitely aren't your friends, but the Republicans aren't your friends. So I appreciate that. So the assumption basically is that the world is divided into these two spheres, racially speaking. There's people of color and there is white. And on the surface, it's like they're creating the special, magical, powerful class, and they're bringing all these folks together in love and harmony, people of color. And it will put the white man, the white woman, the white they in their place. Yes, the white they gets put in their place too. You have a hierarchy. So their assumption on the surface may seem to attract self-hating whites. Oh yeah, a world in which it's constructed so that half the world is rallying to defeat whiteism? Oh yeah, I hate myself. Let me join that. And that's what it would seem. Well, why would you call that racist? It's idiotic. But I think the opposite is true. I think that racist whites are much more likely to, especially if they perceive that the key is you have to have real power, and you have real power. SJW authoritarianism has very real power. The SJW authoritarians occupy most key positions of cultural power in America today. So they have very real power, and you would see that. And that cultural power has cultural and market power also. That cultural and market power has the real ability to destroy human lives. And you're a racist. And you hear a message. This is the message that you hear. This is the message that you hear. This is the real message. White people are inherently so powerful that they consume everything around them. It's just in their nature. They're so powerful. The only way to stop white people is for the entirety of the non-white world to come together and stand up to stop the whites from devouring us. However, we can't do this without the white allies. the most powerful people in that movement are the white allies. This is my supposition. We need white crusaders to save us from white power. That's what it ends up. I'm not saying that when you're a person, I'm not saying everybody who has SJW believes that this is what they believe and this is how they see things. I'm just saying the white person, this is how they hear it. The white racist that sees, wow. So here's a system. Now for them, it's a win-win. If they decide to throw in, what they could do is they could throw in with the SJW lot and protect themselves from being discovered as being racist, because they ain't gonna be able to help themselves. This way, this makes it easier because now they get to continue to feel their sense of supremacism as an ally. They get to be the ally, so they're the ones that, in their minds, they're the white saviors, who without which all of the people of the world together couldn't stop the white race. And if they're really pragmatic, they could be thinking, well, if they're right and they can stop the white race, I'm going to be one of the ones that survive and thrive. So hey, if they win, which I don't really want them to win, but if they do win, hey, I'll be fine. And on the other hand, what they'd really want, I'm sure, is for this thing to backlash, and the people of color and the people of rainbow, they end up being the target of the backlash by the whites and the non-rainbows. And so they get their wish. They get their race war. They get to see people of color get killed. People of rainbow get killed. This is my theory. This has been my theory for the last 6 years. Now, again, I'm not saying that this is what SJWism actually is, although at one point I kind of did flirt with that concept. But now I don't. I think it's just too many things. SJW is different things to different people. It depends on how you have used it as your vehicle of power. And my supposition is that we're going to find out when we look back after the data comes in that in fact SJW is as a movement will learn the authoritarian SJW as a movement, the one that actually got the power, that it is ultimately mostly run and benefited white upper middle class and upper class families, basically citadelians and their close vassal allies. That's what you're going to find out. They're the ones that raked in the dough from all the marketing and all the power that was gained, and it all ended up being in the hands of the same people that were fundamentally behind the perpetuation of whatever race supremacist constructs still exist in the world today, and the new ones that are being born to replace the old. And there you go. So my basically what I'm saying to Tim Pool is welcome to my world, but dig deeper, dig much deeper than you did there, son. I call you son only because you're what, like half my age, I think, maybe. No, you're not half my age. You're like 3/5 my age, something like that. You could be my son. You could be my son, Tim. You could be my son. God bless you. I'm going to go to the next segment now. All right, okay, folks, I do know that I took up some time there, and I was willing to sacrifice the time. I really wanted to get that out, and I'm glad to just keep that part just in the, it's there. It'll be up on YouTube. It'll be up on, eventually, hopefully, it'll show up on BitChute. It's a crapshoot sometimes, and it'll definitely stay up on YouTube in the replay as well. So it's there. I'm not hiding it. I'm keeping it up and all that. But yeah, I don't necessarily want that type of. That's a little bit really further edgier kind of content out there on the segments, because I want the segments to be. Well, the segments are kind of like the content marketing for the live stream. Ultimately, I want everybody at the live stream, so I'm not afraid of people hearing my dangerous thoughts. I just want to be good and smart about my content marketing. Y'all know what I'm saying? Y'all feel it? Y'all feel it. And if you don't, I don't care. I'll live. Or maybe I won't. I could die today. All right, let's do this. let's get this recorded. In 3, 2, 1. And this is the Dialectical for Frico Talks the News on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. I am Frico with Frico.com, and our Dialectical today is Fear Not the AI That Took Your Job. A weirder, cooler one is coming. That's right. This, ladies and gentlemen, give me some applause, some recognition, some awe and wonder and thunder. I have chosen an optimistic story. Now I'm going to get to the crux of this issue before I go forward for reasons, specifically for the wife and for someone else. Folks, what we have here is a situation where individuals are deemed not as valuable as machines. Once again, John Henry won against the machines, but his victory was literally short-lived as he died soon after defeating the steam-powered miner. But that was physical stuff, which is bad enough. If you make your living doing the physical stuff, now, machines are moving into our creative, intellectual space, taking over the job of news curator for an international corporation, Microsoft. This is a news story altogether. Literally, get it? The AI picks your news stuff. The AI. Wait, I flubbed that now. Let's try to do this again, right? All right, ready? Now, machines are moving into our creative, intellectual space, taking over the job of news curator for an international corporation, Microsoft. This is a news story altogether. Literally. Get it? The API picks your new news stuff? I don't get it. I think I got it when I wrote it, but now I don't. You ever have that happen? Oh, fear and loathing in my own mind. Alrighty. Well, I don't know. That did not land. When the joke doesn't even land in your own head and you wrote it, then that's a problem, ladies and gentlemen. Seriously. I did try huffing when I was a kid, but it was just briefly. It was just the one time I got a really bad headache, and I said, you know what? That sucked. Yeah, that was, no, sir. I don't like it. Purely rational agents. Listen, folks. I'm going to leave this go. There you go. Purely rational agents did not survive. And I don't know whether I'll put a text thingy up on this one or not. AI are replacing human news curators, people who are only one step removed from being considered journalists, a title I covet about as much as I covet the term literally. Even if I literally abuse this tiring trope all the time, and I do. I beat that thing into the ground. It's an act of rebellion. I'm literally trying to destroy it ever being used again, is what I'm doing. Are being replaced by unthinking machines, algorithm crunchers that would somehow pick the right news on that MSN homepage that will give whatever MSN thinks it wants to get from that interaction. So a little money, it's a little mind invasions, the usual. I, for one, welcome this change as I spend little to no time on the MSN homepage, and when I am there, trust me, we're on accident. On accident, friends, is one of those things, you're just kind of matriculating with the circumstances of the digital tabbing, and all of a sudden, wait a second. How did I get here? What is this? Oh, that's right. That's that MSN homepage. Wait, how did that get? Okay, undo. All righty, we're okay, everybody. Back to normal programming. That's kind of what it's like. But seriously, this seems like a powerful, useful tool, and as such, I am all for it. That's right, I am 100% for it. I'm all 100% for these folks losing their jobs. And if I was one of these folks that would lose my job, don't get me wrong, I'd be very sad, very upset, very, and I don't begrudge any of your sadness, grief, and pain and all that, but I would understand. I'd be like, well, that is what it is. I have had circumstances in my life where I've been replaced by robots, so I know exactly how it feels, and I survived. All right, maybe that's a little mean. I don't know. I can't speak on people losing their. I can't do that. I'm sorry. Not even if only this really. I try to look at things from 10, 15, 20 years in the future sometimes in my head, but I'm not going to do it here. Never mind. I feel bad for you guys losing jobs, although I don't have a problem with the tool or in general with MSN making this decision in abstract. I just feel bad for people losing their jobs in general, especially right now. Though the problem that underlies some of the difficulties we will experience as we transition into more automated universes have little to nothing to do with the tools themselves. They have everything to do with the type of structures that exist around us, structures that allow a select few to hoard the minds of others through IP and patenting. Yes, this is a story and a song that I will repeat over and over and over again. And to use that advantage to create both artificial scarcities as well as to build deceptively manipulations and restrictions intended to assure that the tools themselves remain in the hands of the few, assuring them that tech will not be freed to free the pores, so to speak. The pores is anyone essentially who is not one of the is not one of the what I call vassals of Citadelians or there's even localized mini Citadelians, but in general, vassals of Citadelians or Citadelians themselves. And a Citadelian, they're essentially individuals who can stroll the geographical sphere for which their Citadelian reign is in effect, with little to no fear of physical consequence for their actions, even if their actions include physical actions against others, either directly or through some proxy method. That's essentially what we're talking about here. I have little doubt that outside the restrictions of artificial scarcity and dumbed down access to tech, human beings will continue to seek uniquely human exchanges that they will be willing to pay for, so to speak, and also literally. So this is where I'm going with this, which is if you allow the tech to free the pores, the folks that don't have this capacity to be de facto kind of demigods upon the planet, to experience in very real power sense some easily believable sense, if you will, of being an apex existential in the now, to be walking in a godlike way upon the earth. Unless you have that capacity, then I can tell you that the continued consolidation of human thought into the hands of the few is critically in your disinterest. It will continue to offer less and less choice for you as far as you determining the type of life that you would like to live. What you'd like to hear more and more is people saying, I love what I do. You really do want to hear that. I don't care what anybody tells you. If you wanna make it in this world, operating under the principle of do what you love to do best might not necessarily be the best choice. But see, that's the fundamental issue with me, that is the reality. And I believe maybe potentially because of the technical and geographical and whatever realities that we've had over the course of human history, that was unavoidably so. But what I theorize and strongly believe is that we have the capacity with what we know in the here and now with the tools before us today to create the conditions that would not allow, I guess you could say, the perpetual consolidation of human thought into the hands of the few. When the hands of the few can consolidate the most essentially valuable elements of human thought and then turn that human thought into weapons of war against everyone else, that just continues to perpetuate these cycles of violence that are necessitated by the existence of these Citadelian folks in the first place. Because their existence relies almost always, almost certainly, on declarations and claims of certain success and evidence of truth. And the more powerful they are, in combination with the closer their power comes from these claims of truth, the more the necessity and the ability for them to do whatever they got to do to shut down, basically to shut down any potential physical response to what the physical consequences of the actions that they set in motion using their significant balance of power advantage. You're talking about human beings, individuals that in 1 month will add to their wealth more than a city of 60,000 collectively will make in a year. These are the types of individuals that we're talking about. These types of advantages. When you put it in those terms, imagine individuals that walk into towns, into a city of 60,000, knowing that everything you see here as far as the amount of new revenue taken in by people, that they will make more than all of these human beings combined. If you think that that is a system that is going to produce consensual exchange systems or methods of interaction, well, you're deluded. It produces what it produces. It produces in the earlier story the landlords that are ready, pouncing at the bit to evict their quote unquote deadbeats, the people who couldn't pay during coronavirus. No understanding of just how violently non-consensual their action appears to the rest of us who humanity. We have conflicting instincts, and I do believe we have a fundamental instinct towards consensuality, which comes from our understanding of our brokenness, our weakness. We at our core, and maybe at levels that our awareness doesn't access, our heuristic institutional cores, whatever they might be, we have an understanding of the limitations of our real power. But the more that we are aware of this, the more that we tend to act in consensual ways. Consensuality is kind of a way of saying, please have mercy on me. And that is kind of what we all understand we all need. But we spend most of our lives trying to build up ourselves within by extending the bulk of our identity without, in factitious constructs created and or enhanced, manipulated, and then enabled, marketed, coercively enforced by Citadelians. That's the world that we live in, so long as we continue to allow these folks. And these particular folks. It's whatever system allows for the continued concentration of ideational control, which is effectively what IP laws and patent laws give these folks. This is going to produce these types of folks. They're a product of a system, although they're types of folks, these types of coercive, psychotic types of folks, they kind of built the system in the first place. But we're now at levels, we have this contradictory reality of power in technology. On one hand, in the here and now, it enables individuals to concentrate real power in ways that they could never do before, but they do so at a cost of really forcing us ranks and files poors to seriously consider whether we want to continue in this arrangement. And they would much rather that we pick up guns and destroy the universe than we pick up 3D printers and mesh networks and encrypted value exchange services, whatever all that looks like. They would much rather us pick up guns and Molotov cocktails than pick up our own methodology of developing our own AIs, our own open source core models that allow individuals to create their own customized AIs that they have proprietary ownership over, that's unique to them, that serves only them, that they can have at least some degree of certainty that what's in that AI is what they want into it, and how that AI influences them is how they want it to influence them. That's the world that we're championing here on Freako Talks the News. And I think I'll end this segment with that. I think I can't have but anything but empathy for any individuals. I won't say any individuals. There's some individuals that lost their jobs they probably deserve to, but In this case, I'm not even I'm not. So you folks that lost your jobs, sorry for you. My empathy and all that, goodwill and all that, whatever. But I'm not. It's not. I don't mind if this becomes, again within those constructs. If it's an emerging within non-colonized ideational realities where the tech and the thought is open and free, well, then these tools really could be awesome. They could really do a lot of tremendous things. But if it's just going to be in the hands of the few, and you only can buy it from the hands of the few, and they give you their limited dumbed down version of this tech, then in that case, not good at all. So this, like I said, this seems like a powerfully useful tool, and as such, I'm all for it. And the problem that underlies some of the difficulties we will experience as we transition into more automated universes have little to do to nothing to do with the tools themselves. They have everything to do with the types of structures that exist around us. Structures that allow a select few to hoard the minds of others through IP and patenting, and to use that advantage to create both artificial scarcities as well as to build, deceptively, manipulations and restrictions intended to assure that the tools themselves remain in the hands of the few, assuring them that tech will not be freed to free the poor, so to speak. This really is, and I reread this on purpose. This really is the core. This is the fundamental underlying reality of power that is at play here when we're talking about the ramifications of this news item, this idea that AI will be at the front. The underlying issue for almost all of these types of stories is right here, and this has been repeated on this show multiple times in multiple ways, and it's one of the key things that if I died tomorrow, if you remembered anything about this show and you took it to heart and you did something real with it, this is one of those key things. Not the only thing, but it is one of the top 2 or 3. And I will end this segment at this. Coming up next is going to... Oh, no, that's right. I keep forgetting this. I got to remember this. So I'll make a note here. At the end of this segment, we have... Some of these stories come from Obamacare.tv. Some of the stories that end up choosing to do my news art for the day on Frico Talks the News comes from Obamacare.tv. And this is some of the top links for free market social engineering for the masses. Technical giants pledge fund to fight racial injustice. There's a high likelihood I'll end up talking more about this one later. Taiwan eyeing U.S.-made anti-ship missiles for coastal defense despite Beijing's disapproval. Don't bet on seeing Chinese brands in the U.S. anytime soon. China-Germany ties in new Cold War spotlight. Verify, was there a blackout in D.C. during protests? Gal Gadot attacked for anti-racist post IDF services. And finally... skip that one. Facebook employees stage virtual walkout and criticism of Zuckerberg. Might end up talking about this one too. Sorry about all the China ones. That was just kind of coincidental. All right, with that, we'll end this segment. Our next segment is the Talk Focus, which is Somaliland seeks international recognition of self-rule. Okay, so I didn't shift to the... I only used 2 scenes on this, and I think mostly I'll end up using 2 scenes, although I do like to get this 3rd scene in here, even though I didn't for that segment, but that's okay. But I like to make a note here of the content free to use so long as Frico and Frico.com are identified as the creators. I'm going to make that little tag at the end of these excerpts, because I want to make sure people can understand they can freely use this stuff as long as they do that. See, that's the contract. The contract for the use of this product or service is you're free to use it so long as Frico and Frico.com are identified as creators. That's it. So, like, if GloomTube, I'll give you my GloomTube story. GloomTube is kind of blowing up on DLive. I've never watched GloomTube, but I've heard a lot about GloomTube. Well, I have watched a couple of times. And I've had issues with DLive. Even right now, I might still be having issues, which is I just can't get my audio to play throughout the duration of the show, especially on desktop for some reason. I've gotten it to work throughout the show. I've heard it various times on mobile, even when I couldn't hear it anymore on desktop. When the show starts off, you can hear it, and then the audio cuts out. You can't hear it anymore. So I got this continuous problem, and I don't know what to do about it. I'm still live streaming on DLive. The replays, you can always hear the replays just fine. So not sure what's going on there. Still haven't figured out. And so what happens, I guess luck would have it, GloomTube happens to come to listen to my show. And of course, I mean, that's great. That's great news. You want GloomTube checking you out. GloomTube, by the way, if you ever want to pick this up, use the YouTube channel version on EvictionPocolypse. I don't have any audio issues there. But yeah, you're totally free to use this. As long as you credit freakoandfreako.com, you could totally live stream my stuff while I'm live streaming. I don't care. But the comment, so I get GloomTube there, and of course, GloomTube's only comment, no audio. GloomTube also didn't follow. Broke my heart. GloomTube did not follow me, so I kind of blew it, folks. There was my moment of glory. Gone. So with that in mind, let's get to the next segment. Hey, we're all going to be fine. We're all going to be fine. We're going to become recording in 3, 2, 1. This is a talk focus for Freako Talks the News on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. Our top focus today, Somaliland seeks international recognition of self-rule. And I think I'm going to keep this one a little bit relatively short because I went a little long in the other ones. So I want to try and keep these shows under 2 hours. I'm already going to be cutting it as far as the ability to do that. But so I won't go down some of the rabbit holes probably that I would want to. Otherwise, that would make this at least a 20-minute segment. Let's get this 12 minutes or less. Let's do this, ladies and gentlemen. Somaliland seeks international recognition of self-rule. The semi-stateless autonomous region, self-described as Somaliland, is once again seeking international legitimacy of its sovereignty in an ongoing effort to beat back the constant efforts by the state of Somalia to reabsorb Somaliland into its jurisdiction. And I chose to use a 0 instead of a O for reasons, I guess. I have no idea why Fatfinger did that, but Fatfinger... Oh, I know. The 0 and the O are right next to each other on the keyboard here, folks. If we could show that on the camera here. Stan, if we could get that on the camera here. Bob, let's just close in. You know what? Frank might be the best guy. You see it there? I can't point it out there, but there you can. You can see the problem. Boy, you can see that keyboard, by the way. A well-worn keyboard. I got to get a new keyboard soon because this one's getting issues. And I have pounded the poop out of it. If it had poop in it, it does not anymore because I pounded it out. So Somaliland is pursuing its case through an international court procedure with an end goal of gaining international legal protections from efforts by others to undermine its sovereignty. Let this, I can get this image a little closer or bigger. Why aren't you getting bigger for me? Okay, it's not getting bigger for me. I don't know why. What's going on? I'm a little confused. I'm a little hurt. I'm a little dejected right now because my plan to zero in on the image has not worked. Let me just see. All right, so I guess you can see a little bit better there. There you go. You see. There's Somaliland. This is, is there a scale? So this is kilometers. So kilometers, that's 80 kilometers. I think that might be roughly, I don't know, I may be way off it, like maybe 50 miles. So 50 miles space, basically. 50 miles is about that. Yeah. So that's about 100 miles. So that's about 200 miles. About 3. This is about 350 or so miles long, and roughly at its longest here. I mean, at its shortest here, it's less than. Oh, it's maybe 50 miles here. It's less than 50 miles wide. So that's Somaliland to give you a sense of scale. So 50 miles is Philadelphia to New York is maybe 90 miles, something like that. So that gives you a little sense of the scale there. That's what we're dealing with. That's the scale of the enterprise that we're dealing with. So it's a small little. I don't know why my wheel thingy of zooming in and out is not working, but I'm very upset. Very upset. Somaliland to take case. This is from busyweek.com. Somaliland to take case for self-determination to international court. Somaliland is upping its pressure on the international community to grant its recognition in her for self-determination. President Muse Bihi, in his virtual speech to the nation during the 29th anniversary since separating with Somalia, said not even the coronavirus could stop Somalilanders in different countries from celebrating this country's independence. Bihi said Somaliland is ready to take its case to the international court if the dialogue will not achieve the desired result. Somaliland, a former British protectorate, joined with Somalia on July 1st, 1960. 5 days after gaining independence from the British on June 26th, but on May 19th, 1991, Somaliland said, peace. We outie. Outie 6,000, son. They seceded from the Union after the start of civil war and declared its independence from Somalia, the secessionists. This independence is not recognized by the international community because the international... Well, never mind. See, I'm not doing it. Who continued to refer to Somaliland as a region of Somalia. A constitutional referendum was held in Somaliland on 31 May 2001 that affirmed the country's independence from Somalia, at least the will of the people to be independent from Somalia. As a separate state, has done little to convince the international community to work with it as a state. And on Monday, President Bihi said Somaliland will now take a different approach in the quest for self-determination if dialogue with its erstwhile partner flops. The only agenda that can bring Somaliland and Somalia to a negotiating table is one based on two countries talking mutual interest and good neighborly relations. Somalia and anybody else who wishes to mediate between the two of us should accept the inalienable, undeniable reality of a sovereign Somaliland talking with a sovereign Somalia on issues that foster brotherly relations, our people, and the region. In other words, we is what we is. We is a nation state. We is a nation state. Nation state proclamation. There you go, Somaliland. And now they're going to the courts and saying, dude, you got to listen, look at us. This is so what they're going to do is essentially show that in all of the ways in which you assume sovereignty and demonstrate sovereignty, we have done so. Look at our land, look at our education system, look at our people, look at our laws. Someday soon, I'm probably going to go into a detail about some of the, I don't want to get into it now, but some of the ethical constructs that the Somalian, that these particular folks of Somaliland have, these traditions that go back centuries. A lot of anarchists look at these types of traditions as, some of them claim that there's anarchy, and I don't see Somaliland as being a stateless governing model. I see it still essentially as within the coercive enterprise governance model, but I see it as one that exists in a model that it does kind of exist some in most of the ways in which its governance decisions are made. It's still largely in consensual building type of forms is what I'll say, at least the way that I understand it. But I'm not going to get too much into it. I have to also, because I want to make sure before I speak about it, like I looked into this a long time ago. By a long time ago, I mean maybe 2 years ago. I looked into it before that, maybe another 2 or 3 years ago. It's something that I keep coming back to, but I never stayed long enough to really get it firmly, all the details and the names and all that in my head. So I'm like, until I go and review it again, I'm not going to speak on it. So I will review it again, and then I'll share it with you guys. But this is one of the reasons why Somaliland attracts me so much, why I follow what's going on there, because it is one of those places that is stretching the bounds, and it has, I would say, of all of the places that I follow that have some degree of this type of consensuality built into their governance models that are significantly departed from the folks around them. Catalonia is another instance, another place that I'm following. I would say Somaliland has the best opportunity to actually be recognized as a legitimate state. In part, I think because it is closest to an actual, it's not as fundamentally disavowing of the coercive enterprise governance model as, say, Rojava would be if that was successful. If Rojava was ever successful and you had people thriving and living high standards of living in their type of radically in most elements of their lives, I don't even view them as being completely consensual in nature. I believe they have some. I think maybe in large part because of the folks that are part of the project, it's hard to undo the heuristic institutions of coercive enterprise governance within us, even when we come to intellectually not favored anymore. But on the main, Rojavans would be a radical disavowal of consensual enterprise governance models if it was successful, much more so than Somaliland would be. So I think that's in part why they have a better chance. I also think in part it's because they've made a couple of deals with some folks, and I'll get into that as well in future shows. But they've gotten some recognition and at what price I'm not sure. I don't know that they might end up on the wrong side of some of these deals that they may be trying to make right now. But yeah, I think soon I'm going to have to do this special on Somaliland, and it'll be a dialectical, probably on a Monday show. I might even do a Monday show. I thought about this. I might sometimes do a Monday show that is just, it might just be one topic. This might be that type of show where all 4 segments of the Monday show are going to be on that one topic. I might do that, because this would certainly warrant it, and I'm sure that a lot of my folks that are watching or listening, other than if Somalilanders find this. By the way, if you're a Somalilander and you happen to find this, give me a shout out. And if you're ever interested in doing an interview, especially if you live in Somaliland, I would love to do an interview. I would do a pre-recorded interview. That would be something I would share as a standalone, and I may show a segment of it on the show. So with that in mind, I think we'll just continue on with... Oh, that's right. I got to the end of this. I don't have anything more to read. So there you go. I think with that, we will end this segment with the note that more is to come. Somaliland is a place that is really, really worth... Oh, again, Somalilander, I want to interview you if you'd be interested in doing it. As long as you're... I only know English. So as long as your English is to the level that I can understand, I think most Somalilanders, I think bilingualism in many places is kind of prevailing. So if you may very well speak English better than me, but that would be the only condition. As long as you know English well enough that I can understand you, then come on the show and let's talk. I'm going to ask you some basic questions about Somaliland and maybe some of the stuff, some of your ethical constructs that you folks have. Quite cool stuff. Really, really, really cool stuff. So if you are a Somalilander, let me know, and then I will leave a comment to you. You can email me also. You can email, I guess I'll give you one of the administrative accounts that I use. That is PG Newser. P as in Paul, G as in Gordon. That's one of the names that emerges from the head of Paul Gordon Collier, which is also a head that I emerged from, me, Freaka. So pgnewser at gmail.com, and give me the deets and we'll see if we can connect. Maybe we'll do a Discord show or just have your audio. We'll see. But I'd love to have a Somalilander on here to talk about that. That would be a Monday show in and of itself if the Somalilander wanted to speak for more than 10-15 minutes. With that in mind, I'm going to end this segment. Coming up next is our break, but after the break is going to be the talk feature, which will be emerging villains and angels and your safety during this season's riots. That's going to be an interesting talk feature for when I get to that on the other side of the break. But before I go to break, I want to make a mention of pioneeringnews.com, which is where I get some of the links. These sites are all run by me that I cite here, including pioneeringnews.com. Just the news aggregate sites, not the links. The links themselves are not to my site. These are just the links. So pioneeringnews.com, tech, science, underground news. If you go there today, you would see at the top, artificial intelligence just got emotional. The UN Security Council's a faltering stance on self-determination in Western Sahara. A trial is underway of the first new antibody medicine developed to treat coronavirus. Japanese scientists unveil nuclear periodic table of elements. 2 years in prison for gay sex in Turkmenistan. Zhang vice chairman faces anti-graft investigation. Aquaponics market will make a huge impact in the near future. Now, I haven't looked detailed into this story yet, but if it's interesting, you may end up hearing more about this one. A machine learning mortality prediction outperforms other models in COPD. This from. All right, I'll end it at that. You know what? I gotta say, I don't necessarily want to switch over to this. I gotta change this third scene because I can't have a third scene here that doesn't show doesn't show the website. Let me take a sip here. Hold on, folks. All right, well, that segment ended about where I wanted it to. And I got 2 more segments left, and hopefully I'll keep them short. I think they both might be 15-minute type level. Well, 15-minute one, 12-minute another. So I'm going to go on break. And when I come back, we're going to do the talk feature. And the talk feature, like I said earlier already, is going to be emerging villains and angels and your safety during this season's riots. Here, I'll just give you little peekers. How about that? I'll give you little peekeroonies. There you go. Look at that. There you go. That's the peekeroonies. That's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about this. Yeah, we're going to be talking about the age of disinformation and how difficult it is to make an informed decision about what you should do for your own well-being. We'll get into that more on the other side of the break. We'll be back in a few minutes, folks. Enjoy the break.
Love overwhelms me. Love overwhelms me.
to understand the actual reality of power around us as you and everyone else alive and beyond, which are about to hear opinions, suppositions, psychological or scientific truths, not infallible certainties. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preferential view of the reality of power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, as values reflected, but nonetheless very confirmed. We do not apologize to them. We do not apologize for daring to express our views and impressions upon what we believe is and what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Frico attempts to talk about the news without freaking out.
That's the plan, ladies and gentlemen. We have gotten through some difficult times already in this show. Difficult times, the first of which almost felled me. I didn't allow an unintended expletive to be leveled in ways in which I consider violating of others. But I soldiered through, ladies and gentlemen, and now it only leaves me at the doorstep of the next segment. And the next segment is, well, it's frustrating. I'll just say that. I'll just say that I consider this frustrating. So with that in mind, let's get ready to record the next segment. Oop, let me get it lined up. There we go. Ready? Ready? In 3, 2, 1. This is a talk feature for Frico Talks the News on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. My name is Frico with Frico.com, and our talk feature today will be Emerging Villains and Angels and Your Safety during this season's riots. And let me give you a quick notes version of what we're going to be talking about here. There were alleged tweets sent by an account, a Twitter account that is alleged to have represented a quote-unquote Antifa, that said stuff like this: "Tonight's the night, comrades. Tonight we say F the city and we move into residential areas, the white hoods, and we take what's ours. Hashtag Black Lives Matter." And so what we're going to be dissecting and demonstrating and circumventing is what I imagine is something close to what potential ranges of what might actually be going on. That's what we're going to be doing it. We're going to be doing it in a meandering style that I do stuff because that's news art. Let's see if people like news art or if they're like, "Yo, man, I don't want no news art. I just want news." All right. Edge Region. Edge Region is from the segment from yesterday. Edge Region, that has to do with that whole fusion, the fusion of the earth and the wavelengths and the ripplings and the manifestations. And out there in the edge regions, if you could manipulate and contriculate, you might be able to figure out how to capture the significant portions of power that are created in that instance. And yeah, we're going to take it off. We're going to remove it. Edge, you know what? We're going to leave it up. How about that? But we're going to change it. We're going to change it. We're going to change Edge Region to something a little bit more humane. A little bit more, well, not humane, actually. Not at all humane. Actually, something a little bit more cliched and cringe and obvious. Because I love the cliched, the cringe, and the obvious are my friends. Like in poetry in general, one of the great, well, demonstrations of virtuoso-ness. Virtuoso-ness? Can I say that? Virtuoso-ness? I don't want to say virtuosity because I don't want to have that some people will think I mean virtuous. So virtuoso-ness of whatever. Your highly skilled poet is when you can take what some poets will refer to as the prosaic. If you could take the perfectly ordinary and mundane and everyday and turn it into high art, so to speak. That is the height of the mastery of your craft. And so for me, my goal is to take the I guess you could say my version of the prosaic, the news, and turn it into art. And it's for you to ride along, and that's what this is all about. And on that front, Edge Region in all of its campy glory and all the Antifa cliched, all the stuff. There we go. Edge Region. There's so much potential lolzy, larpy, meta-izing in that phrase in this context. So it's perfect. Now that Antifa has once again returned to the fore as villain number one for the right, let's talk about the uncertainty of truth in a time of acute factionalism. Here we have a story covered by an outlet I mostly consider relatively credible, presenting a story whose proof comes in the form of screenshots from a Twitter account that has since been suspended. The Twitter account at Antifa_USA tweeted notice to, quote, residential areas, unquote, the, quote, white hoods, unquote, that they were next. The tweets directly threatened to launch assaults on the residents of the United States of America. All 300 million? Call me skeptical, but perhaps this might be disinformation. The account itself, if it was actually run by Antifa folks, has never been verified as belonging to anyone, let alone actual Antifa members. True or not, that is, if actual Antifa folks sent this message, or if operators who find the vilification created the account and sent the tweet, the message has been heard. Some folks are attempting to push this series of riots, in some instances in protests, in others, and something that fundamentally destroys what is. Regardless of whether Antifa shows up or white supremacists or rogue government agents, if you are not prepared to have a literally fighting chance to defend you and yours, and you live near cities, you might want to consider visiting your family in the country right now. Because certainly I will say right now that you live in heightened risk. I'm one of these families, by the way. I live in an area where I would consider that it's possible that I may have to face some need for self-security, and I have some capacity for such. I wish I have more than I have, but I'm not completely unsecure, but yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll go visit my friends and family in the country myself soon. Who knows? And I do have some, so I'm sure I could manage. So I'm going to go through this story here and speak a little bit more here. I'm not going to get into as much detail as I'd like, because I did select this as a feature and not a dialectical. So features, generally speaking, want to keep under 12 minutes. Here's an excerpt from USA Open Carry. Antifa post about moving into residential areas equals, how's your home defense plan? And again, because I want to make the clarification that I am very skeptical about the authenticity. But again, even if this is not authentically Antifa, it still is a security signal. If individuals, for whatever reason, are doing this, this is an intention of further disruption that could reach further away from the epicenters. It's like a bomb that's going off, and it's still going off. So looks like if it continues, we don't know the exact science because we can't tell just how far this bomb will continue to go off. But if it continues its trajectory, then there are these individuals that have levels of elevated security risk. That's ultimately the point for me carrying this story, by the way. But the side effect story is also, just don't believe anything. If it doesn't check out logically, maybe possibly it doesn't make sense. I tell you, for me, this doesn't make sense. That Antifa, that any entity that has that name in their thing, that's an actual organization and not one person with a Twitter account, that this organization, this group of individuals who may actually call themselves Antifa America, wherever they are, if they are, that they would think, hey, everybody, let's just broadcast this out to the universe that we plan on trying to slaughter white people. That seems cool. That's a good PR move. Get a lot of people on our side. Just seems stupid. I don't know. Just on its face, Occam's razor says, me thinks me smells a rat. Now, I'm not, by the way, accusing USA Open Carry of anything. I follow USA Open Carry in general, and they're pretty credible. They're pretty credible. So it's one of the reasons why I use this particular coverage of this. And oh, by the way, when I do my harvesting of looking for things, I often have multiple sources. I'm like, okay, which one am I going to choose? This one I chose because they are more reliable, and because of their ultimate take that they took is to show you. They're kind of showing you the proof, if you will, that you need to take security measures now. Is ultimately the angle that they take here. So they continue here. I've had the above screenshot of a Twitter post by Antifa sent to me by a few people this afternoon. The account Antifa USA has since been suspended, but you can see other posts that have made recently by searching Google and looking at cached posts such as this one here. Series the same account that had the other thing up above. We're coming for you, fascists. America's ours. Black Lives Matter. For you, fascists. America's ours. Black Lives Matter. I mean, that in and of itself, you could read a lot of things in that. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. That could just mean in the voting office or whatever. And then they have the thing about this also is this whole hammer and sickle thing here. I really see there are many people on the left for whom they would be very much opposed to somebody calling themselves Antifa using this. There are elements of Antifa that embrace this symbol, but there are elements that refer to think of this is a tanky symbol to them. So not even everyone in the anarchist left would agree to this symbol. So that's another sign that this is almost like lulzy at this point to me. I don't know. This to me is a troll. That's what I believe, ultimately. But again, it's a troll that is intended to do violent things. So even if it is a troll, it's still a signal for a security risk. And I think even if USA carry, I think that they do make the case that they don't know for sure. But I think ultimately it's still, this is something worthwhile pointing out. If this is, certainly if you're USA carry, this is you're kind of right in your wheelhouse. You want to let your folks know, hey, everyone, gear up because you've got security risks. And I agree with them. This is a sign you have security risks. Maybe not from Antifa, though. Maybe from Antifa and others, multiple possible entities that may find themselves somehow in your neck of the woods. So is this image that is making its round on social media legitimate? I'm not sure. See? Responsible. I'm good. The Minnesota National Guard is actually carrying loaded firearms due to a credible lethal threat by the FBI. And this alleged Antifa post comes soon and again alleged soon after Donald Trump designates them a terrorist organization. Yeah, I just don't think that Listen, I will say full disclosure that I have had friends and may or may not have friends now. I do, but that would self-identify as being part of some association with the Antifa in their name and having an Antifa spirit, Antifa just being anti-fascist. But that phrase, that terminology, that there's so many people that live under that banner, so many differences, and there are degrees of non-consensual and consensual elements within that whole framework of what people identify, who identify as Antifa. It's an incredibly nuanced story to tell. It's just not cartoon characters like the people on the right like to portray it as. Don't get me wrong, Antifa folks, even these nuanced folks, a lot of them, they're doing the cartoon charactering themselves, creating their simple angels and demons in their heads. I can assure you that Antifa is a far more complex coalition, in many instances informal. Parts of it don't know other parts of it. It's an informal coalition of a lot of competing interests, but as usual, if anything gains traction, the bulk of the leadership of Antifa that gets any kind of corporate or government backing, those folks are going to be the most authoritarian, non-consensual elements of Antifa. So if you see Antifa, you will most likely only see the more extreme elements. And this is a 12-minute mark, and I told myself I didn't want this to be more than 12 minutes. So we are done. We're done with the segment, and actually that's a pretty good thing. I'm going to leave Edge Region up, and let's see if it survives into the next show. And I'm going to leave it in that color category. By the way, I neither endorse nor condemn the Antifa the Antifa coalitions of whatever that is. I certainly condemn the more non-consensual elements of Antifa, just as I condemn the more non-consensual elements of all these vehicles of power, whether it's Antifa or Christ. And as a believer in Christ, it pains me to say that one, but it is what it is. So the news poem's coming up next, and that'll be the last segment of the show. And our news poem is Virtuous Concerns. Oh, I didn't change this segment. Oh, man, I didn't change. Oh, I feel so. You know what? I'll make sure. Where's my feature text thingy here? Oh, there you are, Edge Region. Hold on. This is worthy. This is worth the extra time. It's important. I didn't change. There you go. There you go. Let's just do that. Let's do that there. There, that's worthy. We're worthy. Okay, well, there, we did change the scene. There you go. We did change the scene. Coming up next is Virtuous Concerns, the Latticed Cocoon, a SciFactual. And I may, during the show, do a brief little investigation as to whether a SciFactual is a thing or not. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end this segment. I thank you for watching this segment. Good night, everybody. Well, not good night. Good day. Good day. I said good day. Maybe that'll be my thing. That's annoying. Don't do that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, listen. I got a little treat for you. Hold on.
Love overwhelmed me.
All right. We don't want that music right now.
Love overwhelmed
A little bit of a little thing we're going to, let's see, what time is it? Oh, it's 10:40. I'm doing it. All right. Ready? Okay, ladies and gentlemen. This is Coach Ducks. This is Big Cat. This is Barstool Sports Big Cat. Just going to call him Coach Ducks. I'm not going to give you his real name. If you don't know his real name, shame on you. Anyway, this is Coach Ducks. He's playing, what is it, college football? I forget which one. Is 14, whatever it is. EA Sports College Football. And his team, we've been following his career, Coach Ducks' career. He started off as an assistant. He's worked his way up. Now he's head coach, Tennessee. He's got a top 10 ranked team. Turning his program around. This is only his first year in Tennessee, so this is a big thing to know. He's 8-0, and he's at Alabama, and he is down in overtime, and the score is 28-27. And if he wins, he keeps his undefeated season alive and his hope for a national championship alive in his first year as head coach at Tennessee. But if he loses, that dream dies. Still, he'll have himself a fantastic season no matter what at this point. But I am going to play for you, and we're going to discover together. Does he win? Because he's going for a 2-point conversion, and I think this is worthy of a little highlight. And by the way, one of the reasons I'm highlighting this, because this is one of those things that emerged that no one could have predicted 30 years ago, that people would pay to watch people play video games, and that this whole market would emerge surrounded around people playing video games. This is what's going to happen as AI replaces us, as machines replace us. We are going to continue to find value in human creation and human interaction. And AI machines, for the foreseeable future, they won't be able to fundamentally replace. What they really won't be able to replace is, even if AI can do a song that you might like as good as a human, what they can't do is be the human that created the song. There will be a cachet in and of itself of this being human created. That in and of itself will be a thing that people will pay for. So this is why this is beautiful for me to show this, because I've been watching this whole thing, and I'm on hooks and needles, and I've been watching this game. Okay, full disclosure, I already know the result, and I'm not going to tell you, though. I would be showing this to you whether he wins or loses. I would still be showing this to you. So just because I'm showing this to you, don't assume anything from that either way. Let's go along with this ride.
With his 2-point attempt.
There he is, running back.
Yes!
Touchdown!
Yes!
Give me that cigar!
Yes!
Perfect season
Yes!
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 Fuck everyone who said I shouldn't go for 2.
Yes!
Let's go!
Yes!
Let's see!
Oh!
Yeah. Suck it, Nick Saban. Suck it,
Yes!
Alabama.
Yes!
We're fucking perfect.
Yes!
Natty season. Don't wake the baby.
Don't
Do
wake
not
the
wake
baby. That's the part I really wanted to get to.
Yeah.
There you go, Big Cat. Big Cat. Big Cat celebrates.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, that right there. No one could predict that people would pay to watch stuff like that. People would pay to be on broadcast. These guys, he has sponsorship. Cutsclothing.com. This is Barstool Sports. I want to eventually, I think if I was going to sell out to anyone, I have revised it. I would sell out to Barstool Sports. If Dave Portnoy ever watches this show and says, you know what, I looked at it, I thought about it, you know what, I look at that guy, he's a little bit slow. He talks really slow. I don't know why he talks so slow. Get to the point. Everybody's trying to get to the point. Nobody else wants to get to the point. You guys, you never get to the point. But then when you finally get to the point, you're like, holy crap, you actually made a point. And then you actually like the point, so you continue watching it. Hey, with that in mind, hey, you want to be on Barstool Sports? Yeah, I want to be Frico on Barstool Sports. So make that happen, Mr. Portnoy. You got to pay me $1 gazillion or some metaphorical equivalent thereof for me to consider that. But I think it'll be worth my time and money. I can assure you that. All right, I'm going to do the last segment. I thought that little deviation was worth a little. Oh, we're not here. Here we go. Whew! Almost was in the wrong place there, ladies and gentlemen. Don't want that. All right. And with that in mind, let's get ready to do our last segment of the show. Running a little bit late, but so be it. I made a couple of, in this case, my running late was my conscious decision. So if it's the conscious decision that I run late, I'm totally fine with that. God bless you, every single one of you. Let's record this last segment in 3, 2, 1. This is a news poem for Frico Talks the News on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. My name is Frico with Frico.com, and our news poem for today is Virtuous Concerns, the Latticed Cocoon, a SciFactual. So let's get to, before we go further, this is news first, poem follows. This is essentially, I'm just going to give you the really Cliff Notes version to start this off for some of you that like to get that. Before you get to the news art part, just give me this thing. Okay, I'll give you this. So this is elastic cloaking. It's essentially, it's a new type of material, also with the way that you can design the material, how you can maximize its usefulness. You can essentially create what is alleged to be a near invincible cocoon of protection around any object, whatever that you want. They put it around a car, it falls down cliff a gazillion miles and ends up in the center of the Earth's core and gets gobbled up by Earth core monsters that look like Hilary Swank right before she died in that movie. Not the real Hilary Swank, the character Hilary Swank. Well, the character, not, whatever. Kind of eviscerated and emaciated and just having a bad time. And yet, with the cocoon around you, you come back from that, you survive. You turn into, who was it saying that? I will survive? Anyway, before we continue, that's essentially what we have. So, they've come up with this new material, new egg design. It's got the lattice type structures. That's the key. So if you're all listening, that is the core. If that's all you want, you go away. Go away. But if you want to hear the news art, you keep watching. So let's get to my part of the universe. And the first part is, I thought that I would wait for, I am assuming I want to see who has picked up the cause of SciFactual, if there has been anyone who has picked up the SciFactual cause. This is what I want to know. And for some reason, why? Uh-oh, I have a problem here. I think my enter button is not working. Okay, let me see if this one works. Nope, not even that one works, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I got a problem here. Hopefully I can finish the show. I've had other problems, so I got to figure that out. So I won't be able to do the SciFactual check. Let me see if it's a browser issue. How about I do that? Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. This is worth it. I'm going to see what I'm doing right now. I'm going to open up a new window first off. Same Chrome browser. See if it's a browser issue here going on. And we're going to enter. And Google search, SciFactual. Okay. Okay, so what do we got? We got SciFacts, SciFacts, Science Facts, SciFacts, SciFacts. I don't know. I don't see anybody calling anything a SciFactual. This might be, I might have an authentically, oh man, you can't see the thing. You can't see it. You got to trust me. Do the search for yourselves. Trust me. SciFactual doesn't exist. I may have coined the neologism SciFactual. A SciFactual is something that's written like sci-fi kind of, but it's actual fact. So I guess you could say speculative science factual. It's a SciFactual. All right, it's a SciFactual, but it's a poetic SciFactual. All of that was important. Set all of this up. This is from SciTechDaily.com. Elastic cloaking, new flexible material designed to protect buildings, military personnel, as opposed to the, well, could say immaterial personnel. That's kind of sad, though. A team of engineers led by Zhuliang Huang, a James C. Dowell professor in the Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering Department at the University of Missouri College of Engineering, I got through that just fine, has designed a flexible material that can help buildings withstand multiple waves of energy traveling through a solid material, including the simultaneous forward and backward and side-to-side motions found in earthquakes. And about them in the side to side. All right, I confess that I actually kind of like Ariana Grande. Just a little side-to-side notion here. Like, I think she's kind of cool. I remember when they got all apoplectic because she said something disparaging of America. It sounded so weird to me, although I'm not as surprised by it now, that in the land of the quote-unquote free expression, all that stuff, everybody was so upset because she said this un-American thing, but I can't remember specifically what it was. And then she was there with that terror attack or whatever that was in England, and she was actually pretty. She was pretty talented. I watched her because my daughter, growing up, when she grew up, she was on the shows that my daughter watched, and I watched a lot of shows with my daughter. I only had one kid, so it was really easy for me to kind of commit to make sure that I stay in the understanding the kids' universe and understand their culturals and all that. So I made sure to watch shows with her regularly. So I thought she was pretty talented, and she was pretty funny. She really pretty funny. So I kind of like her, and I like this song Side to Side by her. I don't really generally like most of her music though, but I like her as a human being, and I like her song Side to Side. It's a cool song. Look it up, Google it. It's fun. No, don't Google it. DuckDuckGo it or some other search engine that's not owned by them. Them. Our elastic material can stretch and form to a particular surface similarly to a wrap on a vehicle, Huang said. It can be applied to the surface of an existing building to allow it to flex in an earthquake. What is unique about the structured lattice-type material is that it protects against both types of energy waves, longitudinal and shear, that can travel through the ground. Oh, man, I'm telling you, man. You build your little buildings wrapped around here. Let's just, there's a picture here of what it looks like there right before we get to our poem. There you go. Look at that. That's cool. I don't know what's going on there, but all right. There you go. This is what we're talking about. I didn't know whether I could use this image or not, so I didn't try to do that. There's that picture. There you go. There you go. There's a good look at it there. Right, let's get a bigger look at it. How about that? How about that? We get ourselves a bigger look at it, and when you look at it like that, that's the latticing here. But this structure, and I'm assuming that they're talking about creating a structure at a micro level as well. So you can build these nano structured materials. A whole new world. You come closer. Oh, you imagine the nano. My dream. We have the clear suit that you put on, and and it has self-cleaning, containing whatever zips, breathables, and all this, and it's really so thin. It just hugs you, and there's a process for you to be able to remove it when you have to, if you have to. Maybe you probably have to. You might want to at the very least, just for your own peace of mind. I don't know, but at any rate, you have this thing that you put on, and within it, embedded in it, is also your AI buddies that I talk about on the show multiple times that you've created in your own self-contained, off-the-grid AI creating laboratory, where you've got your core code from open source tech created by the people, for the people, of the people, kind of democracy tech, if you will. Tech off grid, AI off grid. And so this type of breakthrough could be part of the process that makes these. Imagine these things if there was, if they had the capacity to expand at times to this type of lattice structures, and basically you're like airbags. Your whole life is, you're always airbagged everywhere you go. If something happens, if somebody tries to hit any of us, like we can't hit each other anymore. We try. Well, we could, that could be quite fun actually. Could be quite fun when we get into arguments. We could beat the crap out of each other and not really hurt each other, but we could fundamentally show who's got skills. The person tossing the other person around, even if you're not hurting them, is like, oh man, you got owned. It'd be like that. Violence will be totally funny. All right, well, a boy could dream. This is me dreaming, and with that in mind, let's get to the actual news poem. Well, the poem part of the news. We already got to the news poem. You like that little? I did that lattice. That's what I do. That's what I do. It's part of the. That's part of my cachet. Virtuous concerns the latticed cocoon. A SciFactual. It takes a terrible tumble. The latticed snap tide tumble. A genetic dysfunction holds the power of thought in its tangle. Cocooned, breathless, bodies congeal in protective lattice. Latticing across the milky stars, the design waves the energetic into the dispersed dream where tornadoes toil to break out of the flexible ridge holes of space. Space takes into account the process. I tumble out of the bed and smack my head on the hard, oak-paneled floor. A dream defers in the aftermath as thought is tangled in the lattice where a machine mimics the perfect cocoon. I close my eyes and it takes a great load off my imagined things. Flexible waves travel through joints and shunts and latticed facsimiles, factitious and organic in sense. The dying light cannot be contained by the latticed grasp. I tumble. The eye shuts on the dream. Thought becomes safe again, contained, latticed, congealed in the same across virtuous concerns. And there you go. That is the news poem for today, which is also the last segment of the day. So if you're watching this as these segments appear to the degree to which they do on BitChute, because BitChute is sometimes hit or miss, although I think I'm starting to figure some things out there. If you're watching the replays on DLives or YouTube, or the segments on the YouTubes on ActionBots, then this is the end. This is the end for the segment watchers for today. Until tomorrow. Tomorrow, when the segments will appear, sometime shortly after the show is over. And the show doesn't have a fixed time as to its length. So, with that, good night, everybody. Well, we won't say good night, everybody, just yet. How about we have a couple of things that we do here. First off, it turns out that there really was only one segment in which I was significantly challenged. I would say that this is one of these. Basically, I went down 21-0 in the first quarter, and I didn't come roaring back. I came incrementally back. I went 21-0. Maybe the end of the first half of the game, I managed to hit a 53-yard field goal that just barely got inside the goalpost. 21-3. The next possession, I managed to go down and start off with another field goal. 21-6, and then a couple of punts exchanged back and forth, and then they go down the field and they're inside the 20. And beginning of the fourth quarter, they throw an interception, and I get the ball back on my 20 in a long drive, and I'm 21-13. They get the ball and they punt, and I get it. I score with just a little time left. I score 21-19. I got to go for an extra point. and I kick an extra point to tie the game at the end. And then in overtime, I get the ball, I run it back for a touchdown immediately and win on the first play. And that's the end of the game. That's kind of what happened here today that enabled me to come back after being down significantly and seriously in doubt as to whether I would make it through the 17th show in a row or make it to the end of this show to have that 17 turning into an 18. But I did it, ladies and gentlemen. 18 shows in a row, ladies and gentlemen, without a freak out. Came close, but I soldiered through because I'm a beast. I'm a beast. And there it is. Whoop. Hold on. And there it is. Come on. Come on. Why you got to do this to me? Okay, for some reason, I don't know what's going on. I am definitely having some problems with my keyboard. So, definitely have some issues with the keyboard itself. So, I won't be able to change the 17 shows. And I'm going to have to end the show. I'm going to end the show right now. This show is over, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, those of you who watched, and maybe you were a little bit offended or whatever, this, that, or the other, listen, man. Listen. This is for you. We can still be friends, man. We can all get through this trying time, this hyper factional time, and on the other side, the overwhelming vast majority of us, even many of us that think we can never live next to the person that we think we can, we're going to come out the other side. We're going to find our unity as Americans across all the divides. Mark my words. I kid you not.
Thank you for engaging with this material presented. As usual, remember your views, your suppositions do not make you subhuman, nor do they make you subhumanize others. No humans were harmed in making of the show, and we extend no wish of harm to anyone who hasn't directly harmed or sought to harm this person, no matter how reprehensible we find your views.
We'll see you in the next Frico Talks, where Frico attempts to talk about the news without